When most of us think about remote and isolated places, Antarctica, Iceland, or Greenland immediately come to mind. 70% of our planet is covered with water. The rest of the Earth's surface is divided into 7 continents, each of which is unique in its own way. It would seem that our planet is almost 100% populated. However, it isn't so. There are at least 10 amazing places where people were last seen 200 or even 300 years ago. Moreover, there are even areas where people have never been at all. And in today's video, you'll get to see the most isolated places, which are sometimes simply impossible to reach, even by plane. Javari Valley. This region is home to at least 14 uncontacted Amazon tribes, and is one of the most isolated places in the world, and that is at least partially due to the local government's decision. About 2,000 indigenous people are completely autonomous from the Brazilian government. The size of their habitat is comparable to Austria. The right of the tribes to live in isolation is protected by a federal agency, and special forces oversee the borders, protecting them from the intrusion by outsiders. Dense tropical forests, teeming with poisonous snakes, have been scaring people away from the Javari Valley for a long time. This unique place on our planet is fraught with many secrets. For example, where did the group of scientists who went to explore this disturbing place in the 60s disappear to? Difficult terrain, dangerous animals, and a complete lack of communication with the outside world made Javari Valley a huge black spot on the map of unexplored territories. Pitcairn Islands. This territory technically belongs to Great Britain, but it is unlikely that the British themselves know anything about Pitcairn and its inhabitants. The islands, of which only one is inhabited, are located in the Pacific Ocean, and it is incredibly difficult to get to them. There are several cargo and passenger ships that take tourists on board, but the tourists would still need to get to the ship. To do this, they would need to fly to Tahiti, and then they could sail from the small islands of French Polynesia to the Pitcairn Islands. The few tourists who make it there make up 80% of the island's income each year. There are no hotels, no embassies, no visa centers, but local residents are happy to let tourists into their homes and provide their guests with everything they need. There are several buildings built specifically for visitors. Pitcairn is a must-visit island for all travelers who crave a real challenge and want to visit a truly exotic place. Cape Melville. Heat and cold, rain and thunderstorms, gusty winds and hail. This is just a small part of the list of what a person who decides to leave their mark on the top of Cape Melville would have to face. A real hell on earth is located near the large Australian city of Brisbane. It remains in complete isolation to this day. It is simply impossible to get there on foot because the dense jungle with dangerous predators will drive anyone crazy. And a helicopter is also not an option, since constant thunderstorms and air whirlwinds simply wouldn't allow it to fly through. Cape York. The northernmost point of Australia is a small cape with a population of 0 per 1 square kilometer. This is caused by its remoteness from civilization. After all, no one would want to go to work every day, even to the nearest city of Cairns. The journey would take 28 hours, provided that they have an all-wheel drive SUV, as the route is very difficult. Also, Cape York is favored by crocodiles. These animals have chosen this picturesque cape as their breeding ground. Namuli Mountains. People have long conquered the highest peak in the world, Everest. However, people still have not been able to conquer one small hill in the exotic and eternally hot Mozambique. There are the so-called Namuli Rocks, which have an incredible shape. It seems like hundreds of knives cut them every year, leaving deep lacerations on the stone body. There are several thousand photographs of this mysterious place. However, not a single person in the world has been able to complete this route to the very end. Even the most modern equipment cannot handle the steep slopes, so even in the 21st century, Namuli remains an impregnable fortress where no man has ever set foot. Therefore, nature here remains pristine and pure. This place can be safely called one of the most unexplored and romantic parts of the world. North Sentinel Island. According to the laws of logic, there shouldn't be any islands left on our planet that haven't been thoroughly explored. However, North Sentinel Island is still untouched by civilization. In addition to complete detachment from the outside world, North Sentinel Island may contain ancient forms of diseases that lurk there in anticipation of their opportunity to thrive. This island is not uninhabited, but people living there are in complete and voluntary isolation, don't have a specific language, and worship evil spirits. Scientific travelers bypass this place, so there have never been any official landings on North Sentinel Island. Son Doong Cave. The cave of the Vietnamese province of Quang Binh has huge halls hidden in its depths. They are 200 meters high and 150 meters wide. Thus, the cave is currently recognized as the largest one in the world. Son Doong Cave has holes through which sunlight enters it, giving life to plants that have grown to the sizes of the jungle. Insects, various birds, and even monkeys live there. Gangskar Puensum. The huge mountain is currently considered the northernmost, most dangerous, and most desirable peak to conquer. At the moment, not a single person on Earth has been able to climb its peak and leave their flag there. Gangkar Puensum is the highest unconquered peak. In the 1980s, 4 attempts were made to climb it, after which a law was passed in Bhutan prohibiting climbing to an altitude over 6 kilometers. Tibetan Plateau. On April 8, 2009, researchers from the European Commission's Joint Research Center combined a series of maps to create an entirely new map showing the most remote places on Earth. The map was based on a model that calculated how long it would take to get to the nearest city with a population of 50,000 or more, by land or by water. According to this map, the Tibetan Plateau is the most remote place on the entire planet. It will take almost 3 weeks to get from its center to the nearest large cities. Moreover, the most interesting part is that the driving part of the route would only take 1 day, after which one would need to walk for about 20 more days. It seems perfectly understandable why the Tibetan Plateau is considered the most remote and isolated place on our planet. Star Mountains. A kilometer-high limestone mountain called the Hindenburg Wall is one of the most famous sites of Papua New Guinea. This mountain, turning into a giant plateau, hides places that have been preserved in their original form since the emergence of the ecosystem. The researchers who recently reached the local lands discovered a huge number of previously unknown species of both the animal and plant world. Friends, that's all for today. Let us know in the comments which of these remote places on our planet you would like to visit. And please, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.